Oh, thank you.
Part the time you didn't come up with the ladies.
Thank you. I'm really scared of speaking now. I hate the sound of my own voice. It's like this blah, 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 blah. Oh, at the time, I just hate this. Nobody likes listening to their own voice. I fucking hate it. Thank you so much, Landau.
Yeah, you can sit if you want now. I mean.
Oh, great. So we can sit if we want. We can stay where we are, but we can just sit down on the floor or have a chair. Landau, get ready.
Sorry about that.
I was coming as soon as I knew what you were doing. And I thought, because I'm a slow on the uptake. Oh no, there's me just going shoving.
Thank you for that, because that was half of the show.
So, do you need a time?
Do you need a time?
I'm going to do it, because
Oh, that's great.
So you're going to stand up.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I'll shut up. Thank you very much. Skip my.
Let's get my laptop.
Yeah, moving on. Oh,
So, well, thanks for that. So the idea was using the question, structure, and anchor to create the fragment. The question was, it's in the paper, how do we, and by we I mean I as a performer and you all as an audience, how do we create from scratch, because 10 minutes ago there weren't material at all, advanced piece of music, yeah, by using viewpoints. So the structure, that was the question, the structure was 2 acts. First act was gathering information. I was here as a performer gathering movement information. The microphone was there gathering sounds information. Why did I decide to do separate movement and sound? Because from the moment that I decided to put a microphone, was unexpected, but I realized that I was working with theater through sound. So I thought about John Cage and his work with Martha Cunningham, and they used to work separate, music and choreography. Sometimes even the dancers, they knew the music for the first time in the premiere. So this was more or less the idea, like doing separate. That was the first act, 2 minutes. And then the second act was delivering back all that information. The microphone stopped and I was giving back the movements. I don't know if you could recognize them. And the sound was delivering back, the speakers were delivering back the sound. I was transforming the movements with another viewpoints techniques, topography, shapes, and why the loop? Because I wanted to create like a soundscape, like a scenography. Tom Willem, which is the music which creates, is the person who creates the music for William Forsythe. He speaks about music as an alternative of scenography. And he used a lot loop in order to create that thing of ambient music. So I took that loop thing from him, and when I was rehearsing I realized that loop is not another thing but repetitions, which is viewpoints, which is perfect for the fragment. So it was like, yeah, perfect. That was the act 2, delivering back the information, and the metronome. The metronome, for some reason, when I was rehearsing, I realized that I wanted to, in the second act, have an element that unifies the 2 elements, the sound and the body. Why? I don't know why. Was it necessary? No, but I decided to do it because I wanted. And the metronome is a device that measures tempo, which is in music, is in dance, and is in viewpoints. So that's why I used the metronome. And that's why you were standing, because I tried that everything had a reason why, but I don't know. So, Mary I'm going to say it wrong,
Overly.
Thank you, Overly, says, the seed of the entire work of the 6 viewpoints is found in the simple act of standing in space. And as this was a creation between you all and I decided that we all would be fair, like we all being standing up. And I think that's it. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you have any questions or not.
I have a comment. I want to say that I think the piece was brilliant.
Oh.
That your movements were very good, and I think that the idea was fantastic. Just to, as an example of how to improvise a movement piece in place, using again very nicely the viewpoints and all of that. And I think that the option of having the audience standing beyond what Mary Overly did say is that when we are standing, it's easier for us to be a bit more uncomfortable because obviously we need to be standing, and therefore we're going to give out much more information to you than if we were sitting, because then it's very easy, like, I'm going to get comfortable, and I'm not going to do anything for the next 5 minutes. So it was easier, even if, in this case, I didn't deliberately tell anyone what was going to happen, because I knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So people would just naturally come up with movements, and many things came, like Hila was taking photos, the same as with Roshi, Ling was actually setting up the camera, so I think that a spontaneity wouldn't have happened as easily if everyone was sitting down, so I think that was very clever and nice.
Yes, Dom.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of add to that idea of making the audience feel a little uncomfortable, I thought that you wanted the audience to come up and speak into the microphone as well. I think it's just like a really interesting space of like the audience not really knowing what they're supposed to do, and just that sense of like, which you do take away from like, I mean, that is different from like an audience sitting back in their seats and kind of letting the lights go dark on them and the lights come up on the performer and just be very passive. And so I like that sort of question that you're posing of like, to what extent are we a part of it? To what extent are we supposed to become an active piece to your performance? And that, I think that's a really interesting space to like put an audience in.
Yeah, in the tutorials we were speaking about that, and I remember that Alan told me, well, you have two options, or giving all the information to the audience and they know what's going on, or not giving that information and they don't know it. And of course, I've chosen the second one.
Yeah.
I think it's more interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
I do too. I think what's interesting is what we find out when, in any piece. I kind of just, following on from the last comment I was saying about Adeline's piece about seeding the sound but not naming the sound till later. We know something's going to happen, but we don't know what that thing is going to be. And then audiences learn quickly. I think that's what's interesting about theatre making. Audiences get in on the joke quite quickly. So apart from me, but mostly audiences, bar your course leader, will pick up what you're doing. But so then the next task is kind of lift up the skirts of that moment and then move it into something else. So what's interesting is this gathering and replaying. So that's something which we don't know that that's going to happen until the performance takes place. So that is the mechanism that really then says, I'm now returning this to you. And what I think is interesting about that is how often we think a sort of participation of any kind is about a doing on behalf of the audience. Let's go back to this question that Domi was saying, is there's this question of do we need to come up and, because we're standing, right, and there's a microphone, are we at some point going to have to participate and do what he is doing? It becomes quite clear that we don't need to do that, but we're still as effectively participating because we are gifting you unknowingly the things that are going to be the material of the piece. So it is as much participation to stand, like Overly says, to stand and be in his faith. That's a participation. We often sort of feel we've got to have activities going on. Not necessarily. I think it's really interesting to explore this, actually, and see what activities come out of that, which is what that is. Other thoughts and questions? Alan, yes, please, thank you.
I love all the setup. I love all of this setup, and then nothing is inherently funny to me for a long time. I wondered if you felt like talking about the name of the piece.
Oh, well, just, I don't know, what Demiurge is, in Platonic philosophy, was the creator of everything, or the creator of the ideas, which is the basis of everything. So, as this is creating from scratch, I thought that it gave it like, was funny and at the same point like intellectual. Demiurge, the piece. Yeah, I wasn't expecting nobody paying attention to the name. It was funny for me. Sometimes I make jokes just for me.
Yeah.